today with Wendy Norfolk with Luminant Living. I love the name of your organization.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. I understand you come from a background in PT, but now you're doing nutrition and you combine them.
Yes, that's exactly right. I spent over 12 years in the healthcare system as an orthopedic spine specialist.
Oh my.
And after, I don't know, going through the economy, depression, and the little clinic I was in, losing several PTs before me, and then finally being the one that got laid off, I just decided that I'd had enough of that, and I was going to start out on my own and have my own terms and be able to do the things that I thought was important to do with the people that I worked with. With the PT in my toolbox, I wanted something to go along with that to complement it nicely, so I took a year out. I got a holistic nutrition certification, and now I combine those things in working with my clients.
Amazing. How do the two relate? You would think of those as two entirely different fields.
It's so interesting. I grew up in a family that we grew our own food. We did I did all the cooking and the canning and the dehydrating and the freezing and preserving, and really it's one of my creative outlets. I love food. I also grew up loving to exercise. I'm one of those crazy people that sometimes people don't like, because I actually like to go to the gym and I actually like to do physical activity, and so this is really a combination of my passion. But I also found that so many times when my patients in clinic who were really self-invested in trying to get better, they would ask me about food. They would ask me about, okay, you've given me all these things to do to help my back or to help my knee or whatever it was we were working on, but isn't there something more? What about my food? How could what I eat affect my body's ability to heal? So I actually find it's a really natural fit, and it makes sense because as a human being, as a body, we're not just a muscle, right. We're not just a stomach. We are a whole entity, and we need to be sure that we're addressing ourselves as an entire being. And so that's what I like to do with people. I like to approach both that physical aspect and that nutritional aspect, and often, the things that keep us from really doing what we know we should be doing with both of those things, which could be an emotional aspect too. It's rarely ever the food problem or rarely ever the exercise problem. It's often the I'm not worthy problem.
Oh, that's fascinating. So you do end up dealing with things emotionally as you're addressing both sides of that spectrum.
You have to.
That's it.
If you want it to actually have a long-lasting effect, you absolutely have to, because that's usually the underlying issue. I'm not a psychologist, and I don't put people on a couch, but there's often some simple little aha moments that people can have that will make a really big difference in their perspective about their own relationship with food or their own relationship with exercise, and maybe what are some of the reasons why they've been resistant in the past that actually didn't have anything to do with the food itself or the physical activity itself, and helping them just sort of see that and then develop a more positive relationship with that and understand that they really are worth it, and work through some of that.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's fun.
So as a client, if I come to you, tell me, how do you work with me? How do you help me? Give me a case study, a brief one, if you don't mind.
Sure. So, when people come to me, I will usually meet them at a neutral location, coffee shop, tea shop, something like that. And we spend about an hour just visiting a little bit. I call those my health histories, and we will, definitely figure out what it is they're coming to talk to me about. Whether you were going to come in and see me about something going on with your back or your neck, or if you were coming to see me with something that was more nutrition related, you wanted to lose weight or you needed to get your blood pressure numbers down or something like that, you were on the track of trying to make food be your best medicine instead of drugs be your medicine.
I love that.
So, we would sit and we would talk about those things, but that also gives people the opportunity to see a little bit about who I am, what I'm like, you know, whether my personality works with their personality, are we going to be a good fit? And because I want it to be that, I don't charge people for that initial visit.
Really wonderful.
Yeah, it just
Gives me a chance to kind of knock on the door and decide.
It does. It lets you see, is this really the avenue that I want to take, before I have to write out a check, you know, plop down my hard-earned cash. So it works well for me. It allows people to feel safer in that zone. So that's what I do. And then, you know, if it's not a good fit, I certainly have people that I know that I can refer for whatever I think might be a better fit if that ends up being the case. But you know, I'm usually pretty easy to work with, and it's not very often that we have to do that. So most of the time, people move forward. But you know, I always tell them, don't worry. You can do whatever feels right for you, and you get this opportunity to see and make sure.
So I could come to you then if I were dealing with, it sounds to me as if within your practice you're really good, I mean, when I think about the spine, it kind of communicates out to everything. So if I'm having issues with the back or with those nerves that kind of route out from there, a lot of times that can be, physical therapy can help with like numbness in the arms, for example.
It can, absolutely, and you know, there's some pretty simple things often that will make a pretty big difference in those peripheral pain problems. You know, a big one that I see a lot is sciatica.
Yes.
And boy, if you know what to do and you catch it sooner rather than later, you can almost always reverse that. You can almost always significantly reduce your risk of having it happen again. It's so common, and I think it's really scary for people to think about, you know, oh, sciatica, it's this big word.
And it's crippling for many people.
Right,
Crippling.
and it's incredibly painful. It's not any fun to go through, but it's almost always for a very specific reason, and it's just knowing what mechanically to do in the moment, and you can eliminate it.
That's
so,
wonderful.
And you know, that's I have quite a few people who are referred to me for that thing. They come and they see me. I just had a client of mine tell me this week, well, since our very first visit, I haven't had any pain. Because she was the poster child of compliance, right? She did all of the things that I asked her to do. And go figure, she's so much better. She's not, you know, all the way there yet. Her body's still healing. But I'm very, very confident, because she's been so good at doing what I've asked her to do so far, that she's going to continue doing what I've asked her to do. And you know, build her body up to reduce her risk of further episodes even more. So it's everything makes sense. Everything is logical, and usually the reason why people struggle is because they don't have the missing ingredient, right? They don't know the thing that they need to do to help themselves out. Sometimes they guess wrong, and they actually make it worse, you know, and so then they're really scared. They don't know what to try. But once they sort of understand things, and I love helping people get a picture in their brain of how the structures are and what they do and how they move and why doing this certain thing is going to help. Because the more you understand it, the more likely you are to do it.
Yep.
You know, I can tell you, hey, go tighten your low abdominal muscles and you'll be better, and you're going to be like, why?
So education's a big piece of that.
Big piece.
I can see why that would make you very gifted when it comes to the nutritional counseling then, too.
Right.
So it's not just about these are the forbidden foods. It's the education around what food's doing in your body.
Exactly.
So I could come to you then whether I have pain.
Right.
Sounds like once I'm out of pain, you can help me with my weight.
Sure, exactly.
Or I can decide I'm pain-free, but I'm just starting to feel sluggish in my system.
Right.
Because I love what you're doing is that food is medicine, or it's your poison, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then movement is the other half of that equation.
It is. Yeah, it is. You know, we want to move in the correct ways. We want to take care of our body through movement, but we also have to give it the right fuel. To be able to do that. You can't ask your body to perform at 110% if you're feeding it 99-cent menu.
That's right.
You know, I mean, those two things don't work. So you have to look at this amazing machine that you live in that is the only one you get for your whole lifetime. So you really probably want to take care of it and figure out how to do that. How do I take care of it?
So you can start with where I'm at, help me a little bit at a time, transform my world.
Right.
But you don't start with transformation on day one.
Well, transformation is an interesting word. It almost sounds like, I don't know, earth-shaking.
Yes.
Right.
That's what's scary for many.
Right, exactly. This gigantic task that must be undertaken. And really, transformation starts with a step.
Mm-hmm.
And so helping people figure out what's the first step I can take that's not overwhelming, that I can look at and say, I could do that.
That's
Okay,
wonderful.
I could do that. That's not too scary.
That's
You
wonderful.
know, and then helping people take those steps so that they get where they want to be ultimately.
So you are a practitioner here in the Denver area. I understand you're out in Golden.
Yes. Yeah, well, our zip code is actually Golden. We're kind of unincorporated Jefferson County, but we're definitely on that west side. We're not in Golden proper. We're a little closer to Wheat Ridge, I think, is probably what most people would guess if they had to guess, seeing where our address is, that's where we are. But
So as you work with clients then, let's just say I live somewhere else in the state and boy, it's just the idea. So can I work with you via phone or Skype or email?
Yes, definitely. I have seen clients in the past using Skype or FaceTime. I will do, over the phone, and I haven't done just email, simply because email is an addendum to my other forms of communication. But I find that when you can't at least hear an inflection in the voice, it's very easy to have miscommunications take place.
Okay.
So I prefer to be able to at least talk to you on the phone. I like FaceTime and Skype if you're long distance, because then again you get a little bit more. You can see a little bit more from people's mannerisms, and they can see, my facial expressions and the gestures that I'm making, and it's just, it's a little more effective communication, I think, and especially with navigating some of this stuff that is confusing at best in our world today. The more clear it can be for people, the better. So that's what I do.
So as your client, I can come see you at your location.
Right.
I can work with you remotely if I'm in state, out of state.
Right.
In town, out of town.
Right.
Do you ever come out to my house to help me figure out how to transform a kitchen when I'm ready?
Sure, I do makeovers, right? Pantry makeovers.
Kitchen makeover.
That's
Cupboard
right.
makeover.
That's right. It's fun. For some people that's a little scary. They kind of do this, and I get that. If you're not ready for that, that's perfectly fine. We do it if and when you become ready for that.
Wonderful.
And some folks just, they want to have me come and be there in their space and help them figure out how can I best use this home space to serve me, to be healthier. And, and they have no qualms about it. So it really depends a lot on each client and what their preference is. I do have an office space, and I can utilize that. It's at a little more central location on the west side of town, around 6th and Wadsworth, right in that area.
Wonderful.
So, easy access, it's easy to get to. But for some folks, they just prefer, that I go to them. Or sometimes we will meet in a neutral location, like I said, a coffee shop or a tea shop, something like that. That's okay too.
All right, wonderful. Well, take a look at the link below. We have a link to Wendy's website so that you can follow up with her. And if you have questions, please give her a call directly. I'm sure she'd be happy to speak with you. And I love the fact that in your model, that first visit is at no charge.
Is it no
That's
charge?
very kind and gracious of you.
Little testing, 1, 2, 3.
Thanks for joining us today.
You bet. Thanks for having me.